But after going through, I think 30 years of Islamic banking, and if it is window operation, it's already 20 years, from 1993 to now, 20 years. So certainly this kind of topic is very important for people with interest in Islamic banking to go into, and hopefully in the process more things can be learned, and maybe new things can be created out of getting better understanding about all these things. Dr. Muhammad Daud is no stranger to us. I think all of us should be able to recognize him. He was very busy 3 or 4 days ago, with clips in Istana Hotel. I think he's still quite tired with those things, but because he loves UIA and this place, so he has no problem acceding to the request for him to be presenting this topic to us. I still remember him that 13 years ago, he was like a doctor, medical doctor in his office, deputy rector's office. We were lining up to see him as if he's a medical doctor. So industry people from Maybank, from Standard Chartered, from HSBC, all lining up to see him for some good advice on the financial matters. So today we will be hearing from him on this topic, and hopefully there will be a lot to begin from his talking. Inshallah. Still again.
الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن والصعب إن شئت سهلا أما بعد respected brother moderator Cik Ali, respected Dr. Rosni Hassan, the Deputy Dean for the Center, Professor Datuk Rabi'ah, Dr. Syed Musa Al-Habshi, Pak Mus, some other colleagues, the academicians, the lecturers, and ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. It gives me great pleasure to be here this afternoon on this great day of Friday to come back to the garden of knowledge and virtue. In fact, I'm quite nervous to present this topic because first, the topic is very much jurisprudential, not product-based, product-driven kind of presentation as we do a lot in seminar and conferences. This topic requires depth, understanding and appreciation, and a systematic and methodological thinking of understanding what is meant by these 5 words or 5 words which are mentioned in many texts of the Quran and the Hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Second, because I'm surrounded by those who devote their times in terms of reading, researching, analyzing, almost on a daily basis. So this is the crowd of the audience I'm talking to, and for that, I would try my best. It's not the best day or the best week for me because I have been traveling last week in Libya and just came back for Cliff and had so many presentations in the last few days. But I will try my best to take you through on this topic. I was not able to put the ideas into slide properly, but I just put whatever I put in terms of bullet points. Let me explain in detail for each and every point of the discussion. So, ladies and gentlemen, Ikhwati was saying, I think you have heard a lot on Ribh or Gharar, perhaps Dhaman and Ribh, and in between we tend to ignore the importance of Khatar. Khatar is not it's not a term by itself. In fact, there's no source or origin of the word Khatar in Islamic literature. We have heard about Dhaman and about the Gharar and so on and so forth. But the word khatar, which means risk, which is an intrinsic risk that Allah has created in each and every contract of commercial transaction. This is something given, or if you like, revealed, not revealed, something which is intrinsically created by Allah in the Sunnatullah, in the original law of anything that we do. There should be and there must be an element of risk that you have to take, and you may try to reduce, but you cannot eliminate the risk. So there is a risk. But gharar, you can avoid, and you are able to do your best to delete, remove, and avoid gharar. In fact, gharar should be avoided in some cases to make the transaction compliant. But khatar is something which is somehow created, and perhaps in our case to test who is the risk taker and who is not the risk taker from that perspective. And that correlates back to the idea of risk taking and a normal contract which is not of risk taking in nature. And of course ribh, because ribh is profit, because whatever we do, even in riba, even in gharar, even in the normal compliant transaction, the parties are aiming at ribh or profit. Of course, and the riba is not compliant, and the gharar, or the misrepresentation or the coercion or the uncertainties would lead to some profit, but that profit might not be compliant because we have breached all the requirement of disclosure, transparency, and the full knowledge of what are you doing. So ribh is the outcome of our transaction. In fact, whatever we do in the commercial transaction other than the unilateral contracts, we are aiming for something which is a positive outcome of our transaction, either in kind or in cash. So ribh is the very motivation of doing commercial transaction, either through the banking or through individual contracts that we do on daily basis. So, and in fact, what makes ribh relevant, the Prophet mentioned in many hadiths that you cannot undertake or you cannot have a contract that gives you the profit without taking the liability of Dhaman. Okay? Nahal Nabi and ribh ma'alam yuqman. I mean, this is how the ribh is related to Dhaman. And we have the hadith al-kharaj bil-Dhaman, and we can discuss further along that line. So this is the muqaddimah, the introduction, why I have picked up a very difficult topic to share with you. I'm not sure whether I would be able to analyze the issues methodologically speaking throughout this 1 hour or 45-minute session. Okay. So bear with me a bit on the first slide, which is quite important slide. Alhamdulillah, Allah has made riba definition very clear. Okay, one of the best definition, or one of the best, a very concept which is very clear to understand. If you are a student of Islamic law, there shouldn't be any doubt and uncertainty of understanding the meaning of riba. Though some scholars might have their own thought, for example, the fatwa of the former Sheikh al-Azhar and the Mufti of Egypt saying that riba does not apply to paper money, and this is his particular point of view. But generally speaking, throughout the centuries, there's no debate on riba, as it is very much on gharar and khatar and whatsoever. So riba has been well defined in the literature of Islamic law, and we have many ahadith to explain the very meaning of riba. Though the illah, the ratio decidendi of the illah might have some differences of opinion, particularly in the case of food items, in the 4 items mentioned in the hadith of Ubadah bin Samit. The last 4 items, we have recorded at least 3 differences of opinion among the Malikis, the Shafi'is, and the Hanafis. No need for me to go through the detailed the disagreement among the scholars, but basically they are food item in nature. So When you are dealing with food item, you have to be more careful because food item, as good as the currency, are the two important items of the world that should be protected. So this is, economists will explain why currency and why Amanie and why food items are basically the two protected items from Sharia perspective. You can't do forward, you can't do futures, you cannot be speculating, and everything should be spot. And if they are of the same nature, it should be of equal amount. If they are different, then you may have different amount subject to the spot transaction. And in fact, I was teaching in the university at UAE. First lesson about riba, student will be asking me, why should we, or why did the Prophet impose on us when you exchange gold for gold, it should be of similar amount, and a spot is okay, but similar amount. So what is the benefit of exchanging 1 gram of gold for 1 gram of gold? So what is the logic? There's no logic of asking the transaction to be on equal amount. And it's not easy to answer to the student in the classroom because there's no meaning of the Prophet asking us when you exchange money for money or gold for gold, it should be of equal amount. And students were asking me, and perhaps yourself in the classroom, what is the logic? It's very, very obvious. There's no meaning of the hadith, quote and unquote. I try to challenge the intellectual mind of everyone. So we have to study the sociology of the practice of exchange of gold for gold. Because no one would be exchanging gold for gold of the same value unless there is a benefit. Is that right? And that benefit is riba. That's why Prophet has emphasized that when you were to do that, and you have to make sure it is of similar amount. Because in the practice during his time, alayhi salatu wassalam, the practices were leading towards an exchange of gold for another gold of either different quality or different quantity. So this is why the emphasis on exchange gold for gold of similar amount. So to conclude, because I don't want to go into riba that much, because riba has been very, very well established in understanding, in research. There's no need for you to do more research on riba. This is my point of view. Riba has been very, very well established, though somehow riba is considered the most serious crime in Islamic law. فَأْذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. But there's no punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Interestingly, the most serious crime against Islam, against Allah and His Prophet, but there was no prescribed hudud or qisas whatsoever. And Coulson in his book, he has, and Shah for that matter, these two Orientalists have been discussing this issue to dilute the meaning of Islam. Of course, they have their own agenda, but it's good for you to refer to what Coulson, Newell Coulson, and Joseph Shah in the university time. We read their books a lot to understand the Orientalists, how they try to use the 1275 Bakar to dilute the meaning of the authenticity of the Quran. And they were saying, if riba is the most serious crime of Islam, why Allah has not prescribed any punishment to riba? And that was some discussion. And I don't know, up to the economists to understand why somehow Islam didn't prescribe any punishment. If you have punishment today, you can do it faster. Okay? But somehow it didn't happen that way. So more of education. The Prophet talked about 22 years. And in fact, Al-Khamar, the same period of prohibition, but there was a punishment for Khamar, for liquor drinking, but not for riba. So another interesting point of view to study the sociology of riba vis-a-vis the intoxication. Gharar. Again, in the classroom, you were asking your lecturers, and your lecturers were trying to impress the meaning of gharar, and in between the word jahalah comes in. In fact, the best write-up Gharar and Jahala I have ever read have been by As-Salkuri in the Masad al-Haq, and when he mentioned about Jahala and ignorance. Interestingly, for us to understand between the two, because Gharar, from his perspective, which I can subscribe, is more general than a Jahala. Jahala meaning to say you have a complete ignorance. You cannot see the things. You cannot visualize the subject matter of the transaction. Okay? But Gharar, sometimes you can see, but the quantity, the quality is not clear to you. So Jahala is about invisibility, and that leads to the ignorance of the subject matter. But Gharar, it covers Jahala, it covers also some other aspect of things. La tabi', the Prophet prohibited the sale of fish in the sea and the sale of bird in the air. Can you see this fish? You can see, is that right? Is there Jahala? There's no Jahala, because you can see the color of the bird and what have you, even that you can see sometimes fish in the sea, and they are, most of them are fungible, they are of similar type. Okay? They are not that different from one to another. But the problem of that prohibition is not about ignorance, it's about the ability to deliver. The ability to deliver. And that will lead to another discussion in the next slide. Because Gharar is very subjective in nature. Interestingly, I could be criticized later on, but let me be a bit bold over here. What used to be Gharar in the past will not be necessarily Gharar in modern time. Because the technology can remove the aspect of uncertainty. If you can have the technology, either using laser or whatever, to catch the bird when the bird is flying, or to catch the fish in the sea or deep sea using whatever technology, Gharar would be eliminated. So you can sell the fish in the either kind of special area or location, or in the open sea, provided you have the technology to show that this element can be deleted or removed or addressed. So coming back to Gharar, Gharar is very much dynamic, very much flexible in nature. So don't rush to make the hukum this is not permissible because it has the element of Gharar. Gharar is very much part of the society, and the tolerance level of the society, and the degree of the uncertainty, and so on and so forth. Khatar, as I mentioned to you, is a fitrah. I mean, everything has an element of Khatar. Okay? Not in the transaction. During the transaction, there's no Khatar. Khatar is about the outcome of the transaction. During the transaction, it's more of Gharar. Gharar will come in during the transaction. You wanted to buy something, you have to identify the goods, the quality, the price, the location, the delivery method, blah, blah, blah. But Khatar is embedded in the commodities, normally in the commodities, in the subject matter after the transaction. And that is beyond our control because this is part of the Sunnatullah. Okay. And you may, at the moment we know about what credit risk and market risk, but credit risk not on the asset, it's more of the ability of the payment by the client or customer or lessee and whatnot. Market operation, market risk, market operation risk, and so on and so forth. So, and DCR is a new creation, but I wanted to focus on something which is more focused. Khatar is about the consequent, which is uncontrollable after the transaction. That it is part and parcel of the contract, which sometimes cannot be avoided, which would affect the quality of the performance of Ribh, or the profit at the end of the day. And that's why we have to differentiate between Khatar and Gharar clearly, because some were saying in many conferences, how could we invest in the Mudaraba and Musharaka where the outcome is uncertain? In fact, that outcome of investment is not Gharar, it's Khatar. Because it's not about the transaction per se, it's about the outcome after the transaction. Dhaman, I don't know how to translate Dhaman because Dhaman has many meanings in Arabic. In the Islamic law, it could mean liabilities. It could mean suretyship, kafalah kind of concept. So in my case, I'm not referring to kafalah, I'm referring to taking the risk, taking some kind of liability. And interestingly, how do we differentiate between Dhaman and Khatar? I'm still doing research and cannot find the line between Dhaman and Khatar. When the Prophet said, Al-Kharaj bil Dhaman, for you to enjoy the profit of any transaction, you have to be liable to the risk of the transaction, either the commodities or the price and delivery and so on and so forth. I don't have any solid answer at the moment, but let me go through some product in the market and we try to conclude something at the end of the day. Ribh is a positive outcome of any commercial transaction. This is the real motivation of doing either debt financing or equity financing. Everyone is motivated by Ribh because Ribh is the outcome. If you don't like Ribh, you can give it to me, okay? Because this is something, our motivation. When we have the Ribh, we can do more investment. We can divest and take more money and do more trading and investment. And investment create opportunities of job, create the GDP of the country. So we shouldn't be shy about making profit. We should be making profit, and the profit is something that very close to us. Sidetrack a bit. The largest IPO in the world, which is happening in the USA, 60 to 70% of IPO in USA are originated from Israel. Okay, so they have created the environment in Israel to incubate the small companies, IT, petrochemical, R&D, for pharmaceutical, for all the gadgets. And after a few years, they will list their companies in Nasdaq or some other IPO exchange. So this is how the Israel were able to create wealth. In fact, this is the highest income for Israel because they don't have resources, so they have to leverage on the intellectual wealth, and somehow the IPO is the way forward for them. So you can read a book called small, no best-selling now in the market, 39 ringgit, not that expensive, called Nation State, whatever is blue in color, but they run the country as entrepreneur. The prime minister, the cabinet ministers, everyone in the university, they are not academicians, they are entrepreneurs. So this is very important because if you are still thinking we are just academician researchers, not entrepreneur enough, we don't develop the value. Our research will be kept aside and cannot be used to leverage more income and more wealth. So we have to think a bit. In fact, all the professors, most of the professors in that part of the world, in the university, Haifa and Israel, they are known to be the thinkers of new ideas. That can be IPOIs, that can be IPO listing. So this is something that we have to comment on the Ribh because we need new research, we need new discovery to create more profit and to create more business opportunities. And Israel is a good, in fact, in another 20 years, they can be independent from oil, from their automobile in Israel. They cannot be dependent on the oil anymore. So they have to work hard to create the battery run cars and solar powered cars and so on and so forth. Okay. I think I missed one slide over here, but I will come to you. Do you have any box over there? No? Okay, so I missed that slide. Somehow I was typing the slide while having meeting at Gharar this morning. So I think the Tengku and the Trusni, they know that I'm doing something while chairing the meeting. Okay, basically if you apply, sorry, let me recall what I have written on that table. When you apply this contract to contract of exchange and contract of investment, okay, two tables if you like. When you apply riba to contract of exchange, it applies perfectly. but riba will not apply to contract of investment. It does not suit, it does not jive well. You cannot find the element of riba in contract of exchange, contract of investment and what have you. Gharar, Gharar does not apply to the exchange of the similar thing like gold for gold, silver for silver, whatever. It will only apply to other than silver for whatever the ribawi item. So there's no gharar. Meaning to say, at any point in time, only one element will be the concern. Okay, either riba or gharar. We cannot have the two situations at any point in time, unless we can share a contract that might have two together. In the case of insurance, for example, people in the fatwa of our Malaysian fatwa and the IDB or OIC fatwa, they were saying insurance is not compliant because it has the element of gharar and riba, which is for me wrong, because from the jurisprudential analysis, it has only the element of riba or gharar that make it incompliant or non-compliant, not riba. Riba is about investment in whatever, investment banks and sector, whatnot. But insurance as insurance has only one element, which is gharar. So this is what I'm trying to say, because riba and gharar are two different enemies. They have two different sectors to be applicable. So this is my conclusion in that table. But Khatar would apply to across the board, either in terms of exchange contract, sale, lease, and also the musyarakah contract. And Dhaman will apply across the board as well. You have to be liable for your delivery of the asset. When you sell something under salam to your counterparty, you have to be responsible to deliver the salam asset to the buyer, and that in that case a khatar, and you are also liable to the risk of the khatar. And of course, riba will be applicable to everyone, exchange contract as well as the investment contract. But the first two conclusion is something I wanted to share with you. Perhaps you can see whether that theory is correct or not, because again, from my reading and understanding, riba and gharar will not be applicable at the same point in time. Type of financing. Asset financing. This is a contract to, assist a customer or a person to own a property, and the property could be tangible properties. It could be services. It could be right to have something. Okay. Asset could be monetary. Asset could be right, could be tangible, could be services. If he were to use his own money, he would not be able to own that particular asset, but through financing, he would be assisted to own the asset, and he has to pay back either, one bullet payment or amortized, as the case may be. Cash financing, under asset financing, we have so many contracts in the past, and salam is also. Salam is not asset financing. Salam comes under working capital financing. So you have to see the ultimate desire of the client, the one who needs the money. Okay, financing is about the one who needs the money from the borrower perspective, not from the lender perspective. Cash financing is a contract to allow someone to get some cash to use the cash for his own immediate reason. And we have the debate of al-aina and tawarruq, and in the Dubai, some banks they don't like neither ina or tawarruq. They have created salam contract. You heard about salam contract in some banks in Dubai. They try to overcome the ina and tawarruq. Okay. In the past, there's no issue of individual tawarruq principle. Even from my perspective, the enough practice. For example, if I were to need some cash, I can go and buy from Dr. Engku an asset worth of 100 ringgit, I can sell to, I can buy from her at 110, on deferred payment sale. Then I can sell to another party who could be the supplier, could be another market at 100 ringgit cash, so I can get 100 ringgit cash and I can use for my purposes. This has been done in our community in the past. I was made to understand in Kuwait during the 40s and 50s and 60s, if someone needs some money, they will go to the shop and they will buy some goods in the shop. They will buy the thing they on deferred, and they will go one round, they will come back and they will sell back. This is INA, okay? Even in Kuwait, they sell back to the same owner after a few minutes of going around the village. And some great scholars of Kuwait, where I was educated, they told me about the practice in 40s and 50s. So this has been the societal practices. Our problem is a very systematic way of doing things, like from the banks and whatnot, and we have the issue of tawarruk. Tawarruk is a good product for good purposes, but should be limited to certain sectors. The test of Sharia is about, okay, if I were to buy from Dr. Engku Rabia, if I were to sell to the third party, there's no issue, provided the asset is real and everything is real, and have the right either to keep to myself or I can sell back to the market. The problem of perhaps community platforms and the bank's practices, we have to make sure that when you buy the goods from the bank, you have the right, two rights. You have the right to keep to yourself, or you have the right to sell to the open market. So if you can prove that this is achieved, then the tawarruk shouldn't be the issue. This is from my perspective. From IFA perspective, from OIC perspective, or Islamic economic perspective, the bank cannot be involved in organizing the sale of the commodity back to the market. But this is not the primary argument. You have to, many scholars, when they pick up this argument, for them this is the main argument. The main argument is the first one, not the second one. The first one, the customer would have the right to keep or to sell. If you can prove that he has the right to keep, and the owner of the commodity will not have having problem, and he can sell either by himself or through the bank, then I think we can pass the test of the Sharia. But the problem arises when in many or some of the community platform, they won't allow you to take delivery. So this is the challenge. I mean, I can be more straightforward. I think all the Richmond and the Donny in UK, because they are not community providers, they are brokers, they cannot allow you to take delivery. In fact, you wanted to take delivery, they will give you, you have to give the notice of 15 days, 1-5, for them to somehow manage to get the commodity delivered to you. But it cannot be delivered to you on spot. Okay. Project financing, this is a financing that can help the project owner to finance the construction. Project financing is the talk of the day. In many Muslim countries, all the infrastructures are underdeveloped. Hospital, bridges, water treatment, the solar power, the airports. Last night I got a few proposals from Kenya, Tanzania, Gambia and Ghana, few projects that the government of this country are looking for financing. And this comes under project financing. And project financing is the most risky financing because the outcome is not that clear. You have so many things. You have the risk of construction risk. You have the risk of offtake. When you have developed, let's say, a power plant, who's going to buy the electricity from you? So you have to have offtake agreement. If you were to invest in mining asset and you have put million and million to produce coal, who's going to buy the coal? Who's going to finance from the mining to the ship for the export? So a lot of processes. And in Indonesia, for example, they are known. In fact, they are the largest coal producer in the world. Good to know that Indonesia is the largest, our Muslim country, gold producer in the world, but we cannot be exploiting because there's no capital, not good enough capital to sponsor the mining of coal in Indonesia. And in practice, you have 10 lorries carrying the coal, 3 will disappear. I mean, the content will be reduced when it comes to the ship. So we have to put the GPS, is that right? This is the technology, how to eliminate risk. Even in Malaysia, we were trying to, project financing, we were trying to do the solar power, the RDF, the refuel, diesel, the RDF is to convert the waste into electricity. And we have one big project in Sepang, and we have done some research where the lorries coming to your houses collecting all the rubbish. When it came to they call it landfill, half of the quality asset gone already. You know, all the aluminium asset, plastic asset, because in between the drivers will sell the waste to the. This is the corruption that we are having in many countries. So if I were to set up this project financing, invest a lot of money, but the supply of waste is not up to my standard, I'm having a lot of problems. So we have to look at the ecosystem of the whole thing. It's good to advocate project financing, but at the end of the day, we have to see the whole ecosystem. I'm talking from my own experience, okay? And we have abandoned the project because we expect to have, let's say, one day how many thousands of tons of waste, but we cannot deliver. We thought the state government, they cannot guarantee as well because there are many levels from your house all the way to Sepang. There are many systems, they call it government within government, okay? Which is true story. So project financing is important, but there is a lot of risk. And this risk is human-made and sometimes, created by Allah from day one. For example, let me talk about coal, for example, because perhaps one day when you produce coal and you export the coal, there will be a law coming in to ban the use of coal, for example. And you have been investing a lot to, call it tanqib, to dig the coal, and one day you will be declared as a environmentally unfriendly asset. Value chain financing, this is something that I would urge my students and also my colleagues to really put some research, because value chain is very important. Any press over here? No press, huh? Okay. Look in Malaysian case. Let me share, but keep between four walls. Who usually consume meat, halal meat from overseas? 60% are Muslim, okay? Because the Chinese, they consume different animal, okay? Who supply the meat to Malaysia? 95% are Muslim suppliers from India, from Australia. Who control the supply chain from the Port Klang to our shop? 95% are Chinese, because they have the cash to buy and to store, and this requires a lot of capital, and there's no value chain financing in Malaysia. So this is, for me, it's not fardu kifayah, it should fardu ain perhaps. I don't know. I mean, we have seen how some Muslim entrepreneur wanted to do the same thing. Next day, the other party dropped the price 5% or 10%, and he would have many problems to sell because his cost cannot be reduced. So this is the value chain financing, and this is some people say we have to focus on microfinancing, which is good, but this is also an important subject matter which has a lot of risk, a lot of potential as well. So again, I'm sharing with you some of the real cases in the market. You have to go to the ground and to see what is happening. Before you consume a bottle of water, you have to see the whole value chain of producing that water from the factory. And that needs a lot of financing. Working capital, Salam is a good example. In the early history of Islam, there were many research to show that Salam was funded for 5 years. Let's say you go for some derby, or you go for some derby, or big plantation land, you can have the Salam for replantation of the farms, and salam can be used to finance. So working capital is very important, not only for big project, also for the small project like set up the SME and what have you. People are using murabaha, which is easy to do, but we have to look into mudarabah and musharaka. The problem is about the risk that you are to take while advancing the salam. Okay, salam, for example, let me talk a bit on salam and try to relate to our discussion. Salam is a very beautiful contract. The problem with salam, you have to put the money up front. The benefit for you, you can lock in the price, so you are not exposed to the market risk in the future. So you have bought, let's say, thousands of tons of the wheat from Canada. In 6 months' time, you have paid today at below price, below market price, and you are taking the risk. I mean, to some extent, because it could be after 6 months the price of the wheat will drop, but you are hedged if the price of the wheat were to go up. So salam is very important to hedge the risk by locking the price from day one. But you have to put the money up, and this is the economic. You cannot have the best of two worlds. You have to give up some of the element to enjoy the profit. At the moment, salam is not possible because the scholars might not allow the substitution of salam asset. Under IFI standard, for example, in order to manage the Khatar just now, they would allow the substitution of the asset in the case of force majeure, which is for me is too much a requirement, because in the case of force majeure, everything, I mean, that should be the case, but how about in some other cases? For example, if I were to buy, if I were to deliver to you from the bank perspective, wheat, for example, I can't be delivering the wheat. Can I deliver another wheat from different countries, or can I deliver instead of wheat, corn, for example? So this is the challenge that we have to do some research to make sure that the salam can be used and can reduce the element of khatar in the whole context. Because it's a good concept, but the risk is also quite high. Equity financing, again, I don't want to go into details. Securitization is to securitize your receivable and your asset to become a new source of fund for you to do more projects. It's not good to stay on the same project forever. You can securitize, take money and do some other project, which people cannot do except you. But people can invest in your asset, and you can take the money and do another project. Telecom, for example, they have put the cable and fiber optics already in whatever, let's say in Myanmar, 100 million, they can securitize the project and take the money and go to Cambodia or Ghana or Kenya or whatever. So this is the ideal way of doing securitization. We have to look securitization from that perspective to create more source of fund which is funded by the existing asset, income generating asset. Okay, because sukuk should be based on asset generating asset. Asset generating, income generating asset, sorry about that. Okay. These are some of the principles which might be controversial but interesting to discuss. Parallel, the parallelism in the Islamic contract. We have the Islam muwazi, we have the salam muwazi, we have the wakalah muwaziyah. I mean, so the parallelism theory should be understood and appreciated more, because it helped in some cases. In some cases, it hurt the Islamic compliance as well. So parallelism is very important. Perhaps one student can look at the parallelism from the one contract or in the whole scheme of Islamic commercial contract. Wa'ad and sharat. As we speak today, we cannot differentiate between the two. Okay? I can't differentiate myself when we say, well, I undertake to buy back the sukuk if I were to default in the future. Okay? And the sukuk sharat in Malaysia in particular. So is that a sharat or is that a wa'ad? I undertake to buy back the sukuk, Zakaria from brand perspective. The issuer undertake to buy back the sukuk at the price which is outstanding to the principal by using the coupon not yet due if I were to default. or if I were to trigger the dissolution event, whatever terms in the rating perspective, would that be deemed as wa'an or a syarat? And can we differentiate between wa'an and syarat? Okay. I mean, I can give many other examples, but you have to resolve this issue. Otherwise, the whole discussion is not solid. Tanazul and Ibra is another issue that can we tanazul, can we waive our right before it comes. If I were to say, if the fund manager, if you are able to bring the ROI more than 15% or 20%, I would waive the upside of that profit. Okay? Can I do that now, or would that become a wa'an or a syarat or a tanazul? So together, we have to analyze and break it out and try to relate to the principle of Dhaman, principle of Ribh, principle of Khatar in the whole analysis. Hybridization, okay, another term I wanted to use. We tend to combine many principles together to support the economic benefit of the contract. There are many examples in the market. In sukuk, we tend to combine the receivable and the tangible asset to create sukuk which are negotiable and tradable in the market. Sukuk wakalah, sukuk istismar, and what have you. Okay, last slide. Degree of gharar. Okay. We learned in the classroom, in the textbook, that gharar could be excessive, could be inexcessive or insignificant. But who determined the level of the excessiveness or otherwise? And as mentioned to you just now, gharar is subject to the technology development. I wanted to bring you to the futures market and commodities market, whether we have the room to see how forward and futures can be Islamicized from the gharar perspective. Okay? Liability mudarabah. Okay. Again, in the textbook, the liability of the burden of proof and the mudarabah lies upon the capital provider, the Rabbul Mal, and not on the manager. And this has been written in the textbook for many, many centuries. But somehow one of the conferences in Kuwait in 80s or early 80s has issued a resolution. Moving forward, the mudarabah liability should be on the manager and not on the Rabbul Mal. So if the mudarabah venture does not produce any profit, it's up to the manager to prove why he was not able to bring the profit. And if you accept this principle of, shifting the onus and the burden of proof from Rabbul Mal to Mudarib, you can do the same thing for the Wakil as well, Wakil for Bil Istismar. And Wakaf investment and financing, it's not about Wakaf, it's about shifting the burden of proof. We were made to understand by Sheikh Nizam in the discussion that we had yesterday, before yesterday, that for the Mudarabah involving the Wakaf asset, the manager, the Mudarib, can guarantee the preservation of the capital, because the whole idea is to preserve the capital of people like Wakaf and let's say the minors and the unprivileged part of the society, because this is to manage the welfare of some people. So be prepared and be ready to analyze the importance of some principle and to move from whatever we have in the fiqh to a new way of doing things. But in order to do that, you have to do a lot of empirical research. So empirical research is something that students of master and PhD should do. That you have to test and test and test and put everything in the laboratory and try to create that this is the time for us to move from that principle to another principle. So this is something that you can see the importance of risk management and the importance of shifting or migration from a principle that we used to have that commonly thought that would be the cardinal principle to a new principle that can support the Islamic banking and finance. We have seen in the case of Mudarabah, in the case of Indonesia, for example, when they issued the first sukuk, Indosatellite sukuk, and the Mudarabah, very interesting, it could be controversial. Under that concept, mudarabah is based on revenue sharing and not on profit sharing, based on the gross and not net of the income, because the issue of accounting, the issue of managing the risk of human, okay, on the ground. How do we manage the element of dishonesty, if any, on the ground? So perhaps revenue sharing would be something that can solve the issue of Khatar with regard to mudarabah, because that will make the capital providers more comfortable of having mudarabah. So revenue sharing is something that we can do more research and try to support that. In some cases, in some circumstances, in the case of wakaf property, in the case of government asset, in the case of universities investing in the mudarabah, revenue sharing could be the best way moving forward. So these are some of the thoughts I wanted to discuss with you. I hope I have been able to shed some light. There are many light in the class in this hall, but a light of try to look at the issues from the jurisprudential point of view and having the courage to do more empirical research and try to challenge some of the principles which are based on the societal rather than on the precept of the Quran and the Sunnah, and try to develop, because Islam is revealed to give the welfare to the people. And the company did many things. When Ali was saying that Wadi'ah is no longer a trustee, but it's more of liability hand. La yaslahu nasu illa bihada. Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib was saying that in my time, when you put your asset, your community to Al-Amin, a trustee, his liability is, he is liable unless proven otherwise. In the time of the Prophet and the third Caliph, he is not liable. The liability is on the depositor to prove that he is liable. But now, during the time of Ali bin Abi Talib, he has shifted the liability from depositor to the custodian. I think with that, thank you very much, and thank you, Cik Ali, and more than happy to take any question from you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
In the deepening, the study on some of the principles would put into place the more kind of application of Islamic principle into Islamic finance. So probably the gist of the whole presentation was to put us into, realizing a lot more work to be done. I think a lot of things mentioned here may be quite new to some of us because of the dynamic aspect. A kind of fixed matter, as mentioned by Dr. Daud just now, technologies and improved methods of doing things will continue to put dynamic interpretation of Gharar, that whatever being understood earlier might not be applicable anymore because of the much more, let's say, obvious outcome of certain technologies, that those things considered to be not within the parameters of uncertainties being cleared, and therefore new understanding of things will come into place. So I believe some of us will have a lot of questions to be asked. Maybe we could start, yeah.
Excuse me, only easy question, okay? Easy one.
Assalamu alaikum. example of project financing and also working capital financing, which involves microfinance, that's related to the Islamic banking. But we realize that one of the reasons where there is a, mashallah, very good improvement, especially we give an example of Malaysia and other Middle East countries. They are working very hard to the level of realizing the development of the Islamic country. Very good thing. But we realize that some of the countries which are under OIC and the others which are not under OIC, they are lagging behind. How do I put it that, then I'll come to the question, is they don't benefit with these improvements and developments of Islamic banking. That's why they're still, much behind. So I don't know how does OIC countries or Malaysia, which is taken as a hub of Islamic banking and finance, what are their role in realizing these countries and see how we can take them on board? Because we see now with these developments, we see how African, they are trying their level best to reach to the level of these investment improvements. So do you have to leave, Chinese to come and develop, or what are our initiative or our opportunity in trying to assist and see how we can sell out what we have? So that's one of the questions. The second question is related to this type of financing, especially the ones which has higher risk. This risk, how can they mitigate it? And if they can mitigate it, what are the measures taken to mitigate this risk? And if the risks are mitigated through these measures, are these measures Sharia compliant? So this is my question. Shukran, jazakallah khair.
First question, how do we leverage on Islamic finance and bring them to other OSA countries which are underdeveloped using Islamic financial products? Very tough issue because some of IC countries do not believe in the system. They don't believe at all. So it's not easy to convince the government of the day to open up and to amend the law to remove the double treaty, tax treaty. Even in Morocco at the moment, I think Brother Sharif is here. It's not easy to even remove that particular stumbling block, which is a double tax for buy and sell, or buy and lease and sell and buy, whatever. So this is the difficult part. And even to name the bank, in Turkey they have to call it participating bank, participation bank. In Morocco I was made to understand Al-Qanun Al-Bunu Al-Ishtirakiyah, again participating bank. The sensitivity to Islam is still very, very high. Alhamdulillah, we have the Chinese. Chinese, at least they go and they bring the capital to Africa, and we have to thank them. As for me, I know most of them in that part of the world. Without them, many of the development cannot take place. But when they come there, they use their own financing. They don't borrow from local market because they can borrow from the Reserve Bank at the cheaper price. Same goes to Korea and Japan. Because they can borrow 1%, because the government of the Korea, Japan, and China wanted to encourage their contractors to go out because the market over there has saturated over there. So they have to go out and they have cheap funding from the government. There are two approaches. Either we approach the government of China and Japan and Korea, which we are doing. We have to engage with them. We have to be going to the parliament and speaking to their ministers. Japan, you heard about the news now. They started imposing interest now on the deposit. Used to be 0%. Now, for you to put the money in the bank, you have to pay interest to the bank, not the other way around. Okay, so this would open a very, very good door to Islamic banking to go there and to open up either our branch or a JV between the Japanese bank, because we can take the money cheap. Okay, used to be 0%, people don't care. Now now they have to pay something extra. So one approach, speaking to the government of China and Korea and Japan, which is not impossible though. We have IDB is going there I know the president is going there very, very frequent trip to convene this big country to come and help our Islamic banking and finance. We have to work with everyone. The other approach is to put aside the banking, put aside the takaful, put aside the sukuk, go through the funding, the capital market, the fund, the mutual fund, the unit trust. This is the way forward. And we have seen many progress has been done in that part of the world. Because banking requires many amendments to the law, and they will take years, if not decades, if not centuries. Okay. Risk mitigation. There are many ways to mitigate the risk. I discussed about the value chain. Okay, we have one good project in Indonesia, the coal transportation from the miners to the ship. Take about 30 days to 45 days, many levels. We have to make sure that the coal is not diluted by the rain, water, and the climate, because they have to make sure that the coal is 100% coal, not being, because it's meant for cooking and not just for whatever. If for power plant, any coal can go in. Are you following? Because you just burn and to create the heat. But for the cooking, there are many standards of intelligence standards. So how to mitigate that risk? And transportation, how to mitigate the risk of flood, the risk of the lorry collapse and whatnot. So there are many insurance companies are able to provide the risk. People like Lloyd in London. But we don't have takaful company because the risk is so huge. It's about 1 billion to 2 billion kind of coverage. So at the moment we have to use the conventional insurance because we cannot have the Islamic takaful because Islamic takaful, the capital is very, very low. You survey all the takaful companies that we have, their capital is very, very low and compared to the other insurance companies. So we have to create more risk mitigation. We have the product, we have the instrument, we have the research, but we don't have the capital. So capital again is very, very important. That's why we cannot be shy away from money creation. We have to have big capital. We have to have even Chinese to come and join us, so be it. Even the shaitan were to put your money, take from shaitan to the same banking and finance. I mean, as simple as that, because money has no religion. Okay, but we have to make it Islamic. I hope you understand my dilemma now, because our problem is capital. With the Basel III coming, capital again. Everything, we are cornered by the capital. So how to create capital? How to create more capital? And this is, we have to work with the other partners. We have to work with other partners. So don't just look at the OIC country, look at the Korea, Japan, China, Russia, Australia, and work with them. Because for them, bottom line is profit. But our job is to make sure the instrument is Sharia compliant and they got what they want from the bottom line. So this is my pragmatic and flexible answer. Not as a Sharia scholar, but as a businessman.
Easy questions for Dr. Daud Bakar, insyaAllah. The first one, I heard a lot of thinkers, writers, and some scholars. They are saying that Islamic banks, due to their changing the nature of the contracts, so what happened is that they no longer have the elements of iwat. And for that reason, some of these thinkers, writers, and scholars, they are saying that there is no longer valid for the Islamic bank to have the profit. So what actually your opinions on these issues? Iwat, counter value, yes. Because we already transfer the liability to the customer and so on and so forth. That is the first question. The second question with regard to the two distinction of the distinction between istihqaq and tamalluk. For example, I noticed that SAC of Bank Negara Malaysia not recognize ijarah mausufah fi dhimmah rental, advance rental, being recognized as an income for financial institutions. I would like to have your opinion as well on these issues. Is there any differentiation between istihqaq and tamalluk? Because in salam, the advance price is being considered as what? Istihqaq or tamalluk? Because they have the huriyah to tasarruf. The same apply to istisna. In istisna and also urbun, is there any differentiation between ijarah mawsufah fi dhimmah, advance rental, and this type of advance payment? Number 3, I do know that one of the institutions in Malaysia, Takaful institution, is trying to use wadi'ah for their Takaful product. So what do you think about this wadi'ah as the new underlying contract for Takaful? Because you know, wadi'ah is quite rigid, because in some scholars, some scholars say that wadi'ah is just like when you are using it in Islamic financial institutions, it's just like qard. And then for sure that you will have the conditionized benefits later on for the participant. So is there anything wrong from your opinion? Wallahu alam.
Harudin, thank you very much for the 3 easy questions. Yeah, I think for the wadi'ah one, perhaps, there is a product we have endorsed at the central bank, if we are referring to the same product. I'm not sure about the other product, but the one we have endorsed is not to replace tabarruk. Tabarruk is still there, but wadi'ah is one component of the feature of the product, where the money will be put in the wadi'ah account plus the tabarruk account. So the tabarruk account will be used to mutually protect one another, the ta'awuniyah, okay? But the wadi'ah is to create, instead of mubarakah, instead of wakalah fil istismar, we will put under wadi'ah, where the money will be preserved, the capital will be preserved, and the bank may decide to give some hibah, if you like, under the normal way. But there's no obligation to pay hibah, and there's no obligation to pay hibah, and this is something that make the product compliant. Because why compliant? The problem of qard when it is coupled with another exchange contract. Here there's no exchange contract. Tabarruk is coupled with wadi'ah. Wadi'ah is coupled with tabarruk. So you are right when the wadi'ah is coupled with say lease and whatnot, because bay'un wa salafin, this is the hadith of the Prophet. You cannot combine the two. But here we are combining wadi'ah and tabarruk. So I hope this will clear the perception. We are not replacing tabarruk. Tabarruk is still the foundation. But when you put $100 per month, $70 will go to tabarruk, $30 will go to wadi'ah, as if you are opening an account with the takaful operator. As simple as that. I think the second one quite challenging is istihqaq and tamalluk. I think in the case of salam, in the case of mawsufah bisimah, in the case of even urbun, to some scholars, it is not tamalluk, it is istihqaq. Or in website, can correct me, it is called contingent liability. It is an income, but it is not, cannot be recognized. I mean, it is subject to be refunded if something does not happen as per the contract, called contingent liability. If you refer to accounting treatment under whatever IOV, Dr. Said is the expert, I don't want to encroach in his area of expertise. Even at Bank Negara, most of Fizima, the forward rental is deemed as contingent liability. Tahtal hisab, tahtal hisab. It's recorded, but it's not to be used by the bank. If they were to use, they have to replace. Some scholars would allow them to use the money on the contingent liability, but they have to replace. In terms of prudential treatment, we have to check whether the central bank would allow them to use, because this is not their money. This is the money of the client. If they cannot deliver the commodity, the asset on time, they have to refund back the money. So you have to check. I'm not so sure about the guideline from central bank whether they can use the money or not. But from Sharia perspective, I'm very clear it is not an absolute income. It is a considered liability kind of income. IWAP, counter value. Perhaps you can see in the slide the idea of IWAP, because I have been researching on IWAP, counter values, for many years, but IWAP is a new term which, correct me if I'm wrong, which is not found in any classical literature. It is promoted by some economists, but it was not discussed clearly in the past. The closest term that we have in Islamic law, Saman and Isman, to some extent. But the word IWAP was not used as a classical term in the past. Do we require IWAP to justify the profit? No. But we do have to justify prohibition, free from riba, free from gharar, and free from, and we have to take some liability. So the liability is good enough. Dhaman is good enough to justify the profit. Because IWAP, what should I say? Number one, Dr. Zahrudin, I think we have to define what do you mean by IWAP. Okay? In the Murabah transaction, when I buy the commodity at 100, I sell to the customer at 110, can I take the 10 profit? And there are many nusus fiqhiyah in the Islamic law that justify the 10, because this is, they call it, the time value of money supported by the contracts. In fact, I can produce to you next day what 10 sources. I have compiled all the nusus fiqhiyah on this topic from the empirical research again. Remember, when you do research, you have to do empirical. Nowadays, we are lack of empirical. When you talk about time value of money, you have to collect all the nusus fiqhiyah in all book of fiqh. Only then you are strong. So when you do research, don't shy away and put more effort to create empirical istiqra' research in your. So I have compiled from, of course, easy nowadays with the computer and whatnot, you can download, but at least you are equipped. So do the same thing for IWAP. I cannot see the word IWAP in the Islamic literature. So I beg to differ from many authors to say that without IWAP you cannot justify the profit. For me, free from riba, free from gharar, and you are exposed to a kind of liability of Dhaman, then you are entitled to enjoy the profit.
Another two questions. The one that mentioned just now about Dhaman and Khatar, right? Okay, so could you please enlighten to us what is exact definition risk sharing? Okay, now and then, is it only confined to equity-based contracts such as musyarakah or mudarabah, or is it also inclusive to sales-based contract, exchange contract? Because some say that even though in sales-based contract, both contracting parties are mutually taking the risk that justify the profit. Thank you.
It's sub-product of risk-taking. You can take alone the risk, or you can share the risk with another party. But risk-sharing is only a sub-product of Khatar over here. Because in musyarakah, mudarabah, you are taking the risk. So either you are taking alone, in the case of mudarabah, in the case of musyarakah, you are taking with another partner. But both of them are coming from the same root, which is Khatar. You have to be exposed to that kind of risk, because this is the nature of the contract. The outcome of profit is not certain. In doing the business, you can be sued, environmental issue, the law issue, land issue. So you are taking a lot of risk, which is sunnatullah, which is part of doing the business. But risk sharing is another concept that you have some other party to take the risk proportionately, according to either capital contribution or any other ratio and percentage. So, and risk sharing does not apply to contract of exchange. Never. Okay, never. It applies only to contract of which have the element of Khatar. Okay, significantly like the outcome is not certain, like musyarakah, wakalah and whatnot. For sale, the outcome is very certain. You're going to get the car, that's it. But if you wanted to invest in the car, most of us, we buy the car to make it musyarakah, to make it a taxi, for example, then you are taking the risk. But if I want to sell the car to you, then the outcome is very clear. The car is being delivered to you and then it's finished. So the Gharar is finished and there's no issue of Khatar because the contract is finished as well. And the contract is finished, there's no element of contract continuous. But for musyarakah, the contract will continue until you dissolve the company, and that's why the risk come together with the continuity of the contract.
That's just to share with you. Yeah. And the other thing is just that based on the whole transactions, we realized that some documents emphasize saying that tanazul is being enforced on the other party, in the sense that what they do is just that they have this clause saying that the investors shall grant the tanazul should there be any excess profit. So my question is, can tanazul be enforced on the other party? Because I thought tanazul will be very much on the self-declaration. Okay, I'm going to tanazul. I mean, the issuer will come up with the statement saying that, okay, fine, these are the structures, and should there be any excess in the profit derived, maybe excess as compared to the effective yield to maturity, then the investors shall grant the tanazul. So basically, the issuers are putting the wa'ad of granting the tanazul in the mouth of the investors in that document. Okay. And when we question about this legality on that, they're saying that by virtue that the investors having read that and signed, so it is taken as in like, okay, fine, I'm agreeable to grant the tanazul.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I think two questions are related to one another. How do we construct the tanazul? It is wa'ad or sharat? Tanazul for me is just expression, but fundamentally speaking is more of wa'ad or sharat. So we can talk about tanazul and whatever, but we have to resolve the issue of wa'ad or sharat first. We are working now with Central Bank and SE together. I'm the chairman now, not to be quoted over there, to resolve the issue of wa'ad and sharat once and forever. So we are collecting all the text from the fuqaha, the example from the classical point of view and the fatwa point of view, al-fatawa and the nusus fiqhiyya, the text of the faith, try to compile as many as possible and try to create new theory of wa'ad and new theory of wa'ad. Both cannot apply at the same point in time, only one will apply. So which apply at what condition, we need to do more research. And inshallah by the end of the year, we're going to present to the two council, Syariah Board, Bank Negara and SC, two board to resolve on this issue. So bear with us a bit. At the moment, do the normal thing, okay? Waiting. Don't ask further. I hope I can answer the two questions together. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very encouraging topic. I think bankers need to do more, and we need to explore the environment. But what intrigues me, we understand riba is universally accepted. Gharar created uncertainty, but in your speech, Gharar could be overcome, mitigated, which has been done, I think, historically. The new terms Khatar, sorry, I've heard it for the first time today, and then Dhaman as well as Ribh. It looks to me it's a risk mapping, yeah? And are the category different? Because when you look at risk and you look at project risk and financial risk, you have to look in totality. You know, so there's really no division of before transaction and after transaction. So I hope we can do more. And how best, could we sort of get ourselves involved to understand the actual meaning of risk, so that we can expand the, product development as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Puan. I have to admit this very, very late. Understand the risk from all the perspectives and try to resolve and mitigate and hedge the risk if possible. And the word Khatar is something new for many of you, but Khatar has been there for many, many years, I mean centuries, inside the contract. But no one, again, I have read many of the convention textbook on risk, very, very technical, very, very deep, and very, very, well researched. So we didn't have that in Islamic literature at the moment. So the risk, we talk about risk sharing, but no one talk about the real meaning of risk and the classification and the anatomy of risk and so on and so forth. So I take the challenge and pass back to the student, of course. Okay. At least I can transfer back. Okay, and bankers, I don't think I have the time to do that, but in order to move forward, in order to promote more of these taking activities, we have to do more research on risk. And I personally share with you about the value chain financing project for you to understand real risk on the ground, rather than the textbook risk. You have to understand the real, operational risk that we are facing in order to fund a project like power plant, waste management, water treatment, and everything. So this is something that we have to do more research. And Chinese and Korean, they are good in this. Europeans used to be good in this aspect. So we have to learn from their understanding and how they mitigate the risk and how they make sure project financing can deliver the outcome at the end of the day.
Okay? I just want to add a bit on this, my thoughts on this issue of risk and Dhaman and how it relates to the Islamic principles. Because to my mind, risk is more like something which, like Dr. Daud highlighted correctly, is fitrah, that Allah has created risk in certain things. And in that sense, it's quite neutral. But what actually the Sharia or Islamic law tries to address is how people react to risk. And this is where we Islamic law tries to regulate the sharing or the transfer of risk in such a way that that act of reducing and mitigating risk will not amount to an oppression of one party to the transaction of the other. So that's why we talk about Dhaman as the other side of risk, because when we have risk, who is going to take liability for that risk? So in some contracts in Islamic law, we see that this risk is being shared. In some contracts, we can see there can be some transfer of risk, but at the same time, the rebate should be, should be commensurating with the liability taken by the party to justify that risk. So there is actually interrelation between the concepts, because risk is where you have not been transferring and sharing the risk in an equitable manner. That's why the rebate taken by the Akilu Riba actually is unjust and zulum. So that is, I think, the interrelation. But of course, it's not possible for me to articulate the whole thing in this limited time. But this is my thoughts on this issue. Wallahu alam.
I think it's a presentation to encourage more critical thinking along that line. You mentioned about why riba has been prohibited, because it is wrongful enrichment, at the same time oppression, where you transfer the risk to one party and the other party will take most of the risk except the great risk. He's taking the risk, but the other risk is being passed to him, the borrower. So I think in conclusion, Charlie, thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hope to see everyone again in the future. But if I can give some takeaway, this is the time for you to read and read and read and think and write and publish. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thanks so much, Dr. Daud, for very interesting elaboration on those things considered to be very rare, that we are able to benefit from discussion on such important things, but nevertheless, not always being said in the open. And I think we are very fortunate because we have Dr. Daud. So his position as former academician, number one. Number two, as very powerful kind of position as chairman of Sharia Advisory Committee at the Central Bank, and also the same position in Securities Commission. What more, he's also involved in the real business dealings, capacity as Amanie, almost everywhere now having offices of Amanie. So obviously it's talking a lot of sense in the way that things being done now, and also sharing some important insight into what's being done now at the central bank. Yeah, so which I think could put us into having hope that some of the issues raised by the, I think, RAM here could be addressed. And I think we should be able to accept this kind of development as a part and parcel of growth, because conventional commercial banking has been around for about 200 years. So the understanding about risk and the nitty-gritty part of risk has been so deep. While Islamic banking is only about 30 years in age, so you could expect some catching up process. So therefore, I think people like you here should be able to go deep into some aspects of things here that you may leave behind your, I would say, legacies, that years to come there will be your name incorporated in the studies of Khatar and those things. People like me, we were very long in the real banking. We know that it takes many years for people to understand, to be good in banking. Banking is not having shortcut to think to, you being able to master things. You have to take years and years. So obviously with maybe Dr. Daud around, this kind of process can be speeded up. Dr. Daud has been involved in the, advising banks and all that. So those things that may take 10 years can now be taking only 1-2 years to get it developed. So again, we'd like to thank Dr. Daud. As I mentioned earlier, he was very busy the last 4 days in the Cliff, very big event. I think very successful, about 600 people around, which I think huge sort of success. And certainly having him around today is a great benefit to us. And for this, I think we invite our Dean, Dr. Kamil, to have a souvenir to be given to him. So we give him applause for talking to us today. Refreshment is served at the back there, so everybody is